Hey, what's up, everybody? It's BDF44 coming at you. So I want to discuss what I just saw, a segment of Speak for Yourself, where basically Marcellus Wiley was addressing the entire um, Jay-Z, Colin Kaepernick situation. For those who saw the segment, maybe you agreed with him, maybe you didn't. Um, but the part that I'd like to take from what he said, I just want to kind of snatch from something that he said and just kind of run with it. He was saying basically in regards to Colin Kaepernick's situation that because he's not someone that's quote unquote, you know, from the circumstances from which these injustices take place, and he was raised uh, biracial from a black, I think a black parent and a white parent. Obviously, I'm not sure which is which, but you know, that for some reason or another made it so that um, you know Marcellus Wiley more or less has in his mind reasons to question Colin Kaepernick and his motivations behind what he's doing. He brought other things into question, but the part I wanted to touch in on is just the fact that I guess the idea that a person can't be more or less down, so to speak, for the cause um, if they're not of some type of pure black race. I don't understand that. That's basically what I came up here to say. I do not understand that. I do know that people are very much focused on who can relate to what it is that they're doing or what it is that they're standing for. So I'd imagine where there's a relatability factor there. That's the only aspect of it I can understand. I know that when it comes down to it, if we're African American, we're African American. Okay, you can be mixed, black, fully, you can trace your entire lineage back to Africa with no mix, still black. In this country, you're black. If you're black, if you look black, you sound black, you show African American features on your face, you're a black person. And you're going to be treated as a black person. You're going to go through the experiences as a black person, and you're going to be related to someone who may not have any mixtures or any impurities in terms of their blackness, if that's such a thing. The reality is, I think that these are ideas that mimic those that we can't seem to get along with, quite honestly. When you look at one another and say, I don't like this person because of this aspect of their makeup, not judging the content of their character. Once again, we're looking at people's skin, even amongst our own. And that's what I wanted to get up here and talk about. I just don't like that we do that at times. I don't try to practice that because I would be hypocritical in doing so. If I call myself a real black man, then I look at my lineage, I see white people, I see Native American people, I see black people. Like, I would not qualify in Marcellus Wiley's world. Technically. Even though both of my parents are black, if you go back far enough, you're going to see a white guy somewhere. I mean, it is what it is, man. No one can make assumptions about a person's heart and mind based on who they are or even who they're raised by. I've known people who were raised in a certain way who completely abandoned those ideas and abandoned those thoughts. They just were their own people. Once they got out into the world, they found certain things out about themselves and they went their own way. So to say that somebody can't stand up for injustices, or in this case, kneel for injustices because they weren't raised a certain place or raised by certain people or even raised in a certain type of environment is ignorance. Ignorance at its worst form, in my opinion, because you are a black person who's looked at with your at your in terms of your skin first, looked at first as a big bald black man before you looked at as an intellectual or an athlete or anything. People who are going to see you, they're going to see you that way. So for you to look at a person and say, oh, he's mixed, so he can't be down, or we'll give him only but so much of a rope, but at the end of the day, his mom's white. So that is just ignorance, man. It's ignorance, and most importantly, you're mimicking the oppressor. You're mimicking them. They do that. That's how they operate, even amongst themselves. Trying to figure out who's important and who's not, based on things that don't represent who that person actually is. I can't assume to know what Colin Kaepernick is about because of where he's from, nor can I look at someone who's from very horrible circumstances and and just going to assume they understand certain things that I would want them to understand. It doesn't work that way. There've been people in situations where they've watched injustices take place. They didn't do anything. They lived in those neighborhoods. They did nothing. So if someone from outside of the neighborhood looks at a situation, decides they want to do something about it, or decides they feel passionately about it, that's just about that individual. Person's space and place and where they stand and who they're amongst does not represent any one thing at all, other than the fact that they happen to be there. Am I tripping? Like, do I have something mistaken here? I just don't understand that. To say that someone can't be down just because they're mixed. I don't get that. Or to think that they can't think as a black person does, or empathize with the injustices that take place around them with people of color. That's stupid. That's a dumb thing, man. It's dumb to say that about people who are not black. So it's definitely dumb to say about people who have black blood in them. It's just not. And if you're viewing the world that way, you're probably going to find yourself in situations where you are following the wrong people, which in this case, that's what it feels like Marcellus is doing. Because he has ideals that are flat out wrong, he's using those ideals to have him use his voice in directions that are just counterproductive for the people that he cares about. Here's the reality. The NFL is trying to fix their black problem. They brought in somebody like Jay-Z to help them do that. The situation backfired because of the optics of that conference. That's it. That's really it. If that conference never took place and they delivered that news in a different way, it would have been received better, and we would never have to go through this. It was because of the questions that were aimed at Jay-Z by people that the NFL put in the room to ask them questions. They manipulated this entire situation is basically what it comes down to. I believe that the NFL concocted this entire thing. The entire thing. You know, after listening to the facts and listening to just the idea that Colin Kaepernick could make this stance and then take money and sign an NDA, I think that's what it's called, something that would make it so that he couldn't speak. That right there screamed of corruption to me. And if I'm going to assume someone was corrupt from the beginning, at that point, I'm going to assume they were corrupt from the beginning. All of the people who are speaking, everybody who's complaining, everybody who's supportive, everybody involved is being paid by the NFL. Even Marcellus Wiley is an NFL representative. So I have to assume this is corruption at the highest form, and I have to assume people are being moved around as strings and puppeteers to speak this way to divide these people and speak that way to keep these people divided. And the conversations that they don't want to have need to be had. And I think what I heard tonight was what a lot of people in my surroundings and the race, the people I know, they would call that cooning, fam. Because, not say that responsibly, understanding that it's not fair to call a person a coon just because they think a certain way, but when you get on television and you say something that is counterproductive to the people that you care about, you're leading them one way because of energy that is basically parallel to racism pointed at your own people. That's them. You understand what I'm saying? That's them. That's their way of thinking. That's their energy. That's their spirit. They're the types that look at a human being and says, forget what's going on behind their eyes. What's their skin saying? Forget what's going on behind their eyes. Where did they come from? Who raised them? We don't do that. We look at a person's merit. We know we can find a friend in this person. We know we can find a friend in that person. If you are the type of person who understands that color is just that and skin is just that, then you know you can find good and bad in every energy. So you're never going to tell somebody, okay, don't believe them mixed people over there because they don't have a purity about them. You know who else was about that purity shit? Hitler is about that purity stuff. That's their energy. We don't do that. We don't have to do that because we know better. That's basically what I'm getting at. This colorist bullshit, that's them. They do that to humans. We don't do that to humans. We are compassionate people. And I think that's what's gotten lost while we've been in this slab of land called America in 400 years. We've learned how to behave as the oppressor and to think as the oppressor and to view one another as the oppressor does. This is their shit. We don't do that. That's not who we were. It's not who we are. So that's what I want to say. This is ridiculous. If you believe in what Dr. King stood for, regardless if you agreed with his methods or not, if you felt like he should have been shooting back, join the party. But the point is, judge people because of who they are behind their eyes and in their brain and hearts, not because of the skin or what region they're from or how they speak, what dialect they speak in, or stupid stuff like that. Judge a person by who they are as they are. Because trying to chase all that other stuff is why we are so stressed out as a people, why we're so over anxious as people, because we're trying to live up to different norms that are supposed to represent who we are and never actually establishing who we are to begin with. You gotta let that shit go. Close your eyes and listen to a person speak and then judge them that way. That's the best way I've learned how to deal with people, is talking to them on the phone. Because you look at people in the eye, you're going to have an established understanding of who they are based on their looks. They can be extremely deceiving. Even when your gut tells you otherwise, you should probably just close your eyes and listen to them speak. That's what I've learned. Because that represents people a lot better than just, hey, look at this appearance I've put together. Now assume you know what characteristics come with the appearance. Based on what? Something you've seen before? Somebody that looks like you? Somebody that looks like me in that situation? You're going to find yourself following the wrong stuff, basically. Making bad decisions. Because your foundation is based on something that isn't real. Some of the greatest, most thoughtful people who've crossed our path have been of multiracial backgrounds. It just is what it is, man. We can't think that way. We don't know who's pure anything. It's just, we have so many humans on this planet that don't have lineage records that go back far enough for them to even actually know who they are. So to say, oh, because that person's not quite black, that's just, what are we doing? What are we doing? And I've said this in another video and I'll say it now. Can we think about who's coming after us while we're looking at each other and making these judgments and things like this? Because at the end of the day, the earth is going to continue to spin and whoever's here is going to continue to multiply. So my grandson could be your daughter's, whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. They could be related someday. Even if we're not related today, we could be some point. That's what I'm trying to say. So can we not just be so caught up in our own bubbles and our own version of right now, is to think, maybe we should kind of treat each other pretty good because we might end up at the same family reunion someday. Possible situations to even fathom, but they are real. Everybody's related to somebody. You're a black man today. Your daughter marries a Hispanic man. His daughter marries a Hispanic man. That person's kid has this. Your whole family's going to be Spanish. They ain't going to even remember the black ass you. They ain't gonna even have records of you. Your family turns into that. You hate them? What do you mean? They're carrying your entire fucking lineage. Your genes are lost in you. And you're sitting here acting like you're the first and last. We got to wake up, man. We're somebody's ancestors. And we got to understand that there are foundations being laid down because of what we do and say. There's a foundation being aligned here. Descendants of slaves and slave masters. Some of this shit ain't even going to be remembered, but they will have our traits. Whatever they deal with that in that day will be a reflection of how we behave. No different than the ways of old, having a reflection on how we view one another. Stop this colorist bullshit. Stop this racism bullshit. Nobody's staying pure. This thing is going to continue to spin. That's all I got to say, man. BDF.